Hi, this is Ron with Mobile Fix Automotive, and I'm going to do a short video. I want to help you out for those of you that are struggling with identification of your Triton engine and or the install kits and the differences between the two valve engine and the three valve engine. And there are differences. They are not interchangeable in any way, although there are some components that are similar. So the first thing I want to talk about right now is the difference in the spark plugs and what's gone over. Why don't you come over and get a close look at this. So from the introduction of the Triton V8s and V10, the V8s came out back in the mid-90s and basically are still in production, I think, up until 2019. That I know of, and then the 6.8 liter has been replaced with I believe it's a 7.3 gas engine. But this first spark plug right here, and here's how we've changed over the years and over the engines. This is pretty much a normal gas spark plug. It's a 14 millimeter 1.25 thread pitch, and this spark plug, with the exception of the different heat ranges, fits all the two valve engines. In 2004, Triton redesigned the 5.4 engine and came out with the 3 valve, which is a VVT engine that stands for variable valve timing. Okay, the VVT engine, and I'm not sure if they did this because of the popcorn spark plugs blowing out or what their reasoning was, but they basically came out with a 16 millimeter multi-piece spark plug. And the outside of the threads are 16 millimeters. You have a seat right here on the 16 millimeter where your seat's way up here on the 14 millimeter. And then somewhere around 2009, maybe as early as 2008, the second generation 3 valve came out and they redesigned the heads because the first generation 2 valve were blowing spark plugs out like crazy. So then they designed the 5.4 VVT engine, and then these spark plugs are the ones that break off in the head and you have to go in and dig them out. So then they redesigned the cylinder head somewhere around 08, 09, I know for a fact 2010, and they went back to a one-piece spark plug with a 12 millimeter thread. So you have 3 different thread diameters that you have to deal with. Now, primarily, we're only going to be talking about these two right here because this engine I have not physically seen or heard of any thread issues or spark plugs blowing out or breaking off short of mechanical or mechanically induced failure due to either over tightening or impact wrench use or stuff like that. So I'm going to move this spark plug out of the way. That is the late model second generation 2 valve spark plug with the 12 millimeter threads. Now here's what I want to do to hopefully save everybody's trouble, is that this kit right here, which is the one I use 99% of the time, this kit is the Calvan 38900 kit. This does all 2 valve engines. Doesn't matter if they're from the 90s or the 2000s. This is the kit that I use on 4.6, 5.4, and 6.8 liters, with the exception of 2004 on up 5.4s, which is when they redesigned the VVTs. So where we're at right now is the easiest way. Let's just start with the first generation 3 valve insert. See if you can get a nice look at that. Okay, this has a 16 millimeter internal thread. Now, the similarities and the reason why everybody thinks that the 2 valve and the 3 valves can be interchanged without having the experience is because the outside of the inserts are nearly identical. They share a couple of characteristics. One of them is they're both outside threads are both 3/4-16 thread pitch. The difference is is not only on the inside, but also on the seat. So I'm gonna, the one I just screwed on was the 3-valve, and then we'll do this again on the 2-valve insert. So you can see that when you do the taps are the same. The difference in that you're gonna have a problem is if you have a 38-900 kit, which is going to have the 14mm inside, and you try to install this in a 3-valve engine, your spark plug's not going to go in, okay? Because you have a 14mm interior and a 16mm outer diameter on your spark plug. Now, same problem. Let's say that you try to install a 3-valve insert in your 2-valve. You can physically do it with the tools that you have in the kit. But when you go to put your spark plug in, it's not going to be able to hold because there's 2mm difference in the thread difference. And this is where I've seen a lot of people call me after they've made the mistake of putting the wrong insert in, and there's nothing I can do to help you at that point. The only thing you can do is put in the spark plug for the engine that you bought the insert for, but you can't even do that if you put the 3-valve insert in the 2-valve, because if you do that, you're never going to get the spark plug to seat. And this is another thing I need to update you on. Hopefully that didn't confuse you too much. So I get people calling me on the 3-valve engine and said, look, I got the 38-300 kit. I know I have a 3-valve engine, but the spark plug goes all the way through the insert. You see, this is where your spark plug, whoop, dropped it. This is where your spark plug socket is going to go, right? It's going to go right on top of the hex for the spark plug. But watch this. See how it disappeared? Well, how are you going to get the spark plug in and out? You can't. It wouldn't matter anyway. You're never going to get down that far, because here's the difference between the 3-valve and the 2-valve, not only on install, but on practicality on the actual inserts. On the 3-valve Triton, the seat for the spark plug is down here on the bottom, on the first generation, all right? So that's the reason why the spark plug goes all the way through the insert and you think you've got the wrong kit. Because the insert itself and or the cylinder head threads that Ford originally cut are not what seat the spark plug. They're just the threads that hold it tight. The actual seat is right here on the bottom of the plug. And this is why it's very critical for you to listen to me right now if you have a 3-valve engine. Do not use my install video on the 2-valve engine to do this repair. And I do not at the moment have a 3-valve video because I haven't had one in here while I've had my kit to be able to do this. Not to say that they're not needed, but I just haven't had one where I've been able to shoot the video, other than quick installs that I don't have time to do video on. So on my 2-valve video, I talk about removing, let's use this one here. This is the guide that goes down into the spark plug well. Let's assume that my hand is the cylinder head. This slides down into the cylinder head, and this guide keeps this drill, or the reamer, however I like to call it, a reamer, dead straight so that it doesn't offset or destroy the head. Well, on my videos, I talk about removing this E-clip right here, okay? Just like this one is. This is the one I use on my 2-valves. And I talk about punching all the way through. And it's not, the drill bit won't drop in because it has this little roll pin right there that's knocked through it. But here's the problem, and this is what everybody needs to listen to very carefully if you have a 3-valve engine. Do not, under any circumstances, remove the E-clip off of your reamer. And the reason why is because you're going to drill all the way through the cylinder head, all the way past, and cut the seat out of the cylinder head and destroy your cylinder head. Okay? So I can't emphasize enough, do not punch through all the way on a 3-valve engine with your reamer. Your head's going to be junk, because no matter what you do at that point, the spark plug itself is not going to be able to seat because it has to screw in until it comes to a stop, and you've just removed the stop. Okay, so the only thing you could do at that point potentially is to go ahead and buy a 38-100, which is the number for the insert by itself for a 2-valve. You could buy a 38-100 insert, which comes in the 38-900 kit, and you could potentially just put that in your 2-valve if you've already made that mistake of drilling all the way through. But where your problem is going to lie is that, remember that hat that I talk about on the other videos? That shelf? Let's put the shelves together because the inserts can only screw down until they hit that shelf. So that's the dead stop for all these inserts. So I'm going to hold these side by side. You see how much further down the 3-valve spark plug goes into the cylinder head versus the 2-valve? So even if you try using this, it'll probably work, but that electrode's going to be so far up into the cylinder head, it's going to be like a super, I think they used to call them anti-foulers that we used to put on the old engines. So it's extremely important that you don't try to interchange the kits. You have to make sure you use the proper kit for the proper engine. So the next question I get asked is, okay, well, I understand the insert now, but on the first video you used the spark plug to install the insert, and you can't do that because the spark plug goes all the way in. Well, that's why when you buy a 38-300 kit, it will come with this. This is an install tool. I'm gonna pause for a second. Okay. So I'm finishing up what I was talking about. We had to pause for just a second. And we were talking about the install of the 3-valve insert and the fact that we get this cool little tool right here with a 38-300 kit, which is the 3-valve kit. It'll have a square drive on the top and it'll have a thread here. Well, when you do a 3-valve engine, that's the installer. So once you do your ream and your tap like you normally would without punching through, you basically put an extension on the end of the install tool, slide that down in there. Now obviously you're going to watch the install videos that come with your kit or whoever you use. And you want to make sure you put JB Weld underneath the hat. You want to make sure you put red thread locker on the threads. For those of you that want to do different, that's up to you. I've never had a failure the way I do it. I'm not changing the way I do it. I use 271 red thread locker just in the center of the threads, and I use JB Weld around the hat. Now, if you want to answer the question about all the shavings, you need to go watch one of my videos on how to get the shavings out. This is not an install video, this is an information video to help people from making really critical mistakes. Okay, so I want to explain something else about the JB Weld. When we put JB Weld on the threads or on the underneath the hat, JB Weld is not a glue. JB Weld is simply a sealer to help compression gases stay inside the cylinder. And I'm going to give you a really good example. See if you can get a good look at this. This is a time cert, which is Calvan's nearest competitor. This insert destroyed a cylinder head on a 5.4 F250. And I've got a temporary Calvan in it that's holding as we speak, but it is a no warranty repair because it blew the cylinder head out so bad next to this. It's literally almost oversized on the Calvan kit, but it's holding at the moment. So this is the reason why I tell people Calvan's the only one I'll go with. Now, yes, in a perfect world, I wish Calvan and I were getting some sort of, or at least I was getting a kickback for the amount of kits I've sold, but I have no stake in Calvan. The only reason I push their products is because as a professional has been doing these and over 1,000 of them over the last 8 or 9 years. I've never had one of these come back on me. Now, not to say one won't eventually, but with the amount of these that I have installed with 0 failures as of to date, I don't know why I would change and go with any other company. But with that being said, Calvan does have a quality control issue. And although they've assured me that they've taken care of it, I've proven that kind of incorrect by receiving bad inserts after I spoke with the company and they said that they assured me that it was fixed. Now, I'm going to add links in my description underneath this video to both my personal supplier, which is Dennis at wiseautotools.com, and to the Amazon Prime link. Now, Amazon themselves, there's nothing wrong with ordering it from Amazon. Amazon's not doing anything wrong. But if you order it from Amazon and not from Dennis or a company that promises to check them, what's going to end up happening is Amazon is going to factory ship it. They're going to drop ship it straight out of Calvan. Calvan's the one that's not going to check it. They're going to send you a brand new kit, Calvan will, to your home, but nobody's going to check these inserts. At least I've been getting so many people call me to tell me that the outside of their threads are damaged and they can't screw them in. That's why I make it very clear, when you order your kit, make sure you have a 3/4-16 nut standing by so that you can check all your inserts and make sure that the threads are good. All right? Dennis does all that for me and my customers, and it's the price difference between the two is so close, it's crazy just not to order it from Dennis. He goes the extra mile for everybody. So let's go over some of the difference in the installs, the install kits. Okay, the 2-valve engine uses this style install sleeve. This is basically a guide, okay, that keeps your drill bit straight. Now, if you buy, and you'll probably recognize this if you've gone to one of the, I'm not going to use names, but let's just say small retail parts stores. This is a save-a-thread. Now, for most engines, you know, imports and stuff like that, I use these all the time. They're great inserts, so I'm not going to nail save-a-thread. But unfortunately, because of the way the cylinder head is tapered on the Triton engine, these are the last resort that you want to use. If you use one of these, there's a good chance, 50-50 chance, that this is going to blow back out within a short amount of time, and or when it does blow out, it's going to destroy the cylinder head. So the best thing to do is just don't install these save-a-threads or helicoils, okay, because they're not designed for it. You need to put a Calvan insert in there that has that shelf, because that's what's going to stop the gases from blowing past the threads. The other thing that you have to deal with on a save-a-thread install is that there's no guide to keep your drill or your reamer, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing to keep it straight. So if you end up with the drill bit crooked, then your insert's going to be crooked. And if your insert's crooked, it's coming out immediately. There's just nothing you can do about it. So these are the guides for the Calvan 38900 kit, which is the 2-valve Triton. This is the guide that comes with the 38300, which is the 3-valve kit. And the biggest difference is where the drill bit comes to a stop. Okay, the drill bit, do I have a drill bit with? Yeah, okay, but I don't have one. I didn't put the E-clip on the second one, so I'll have to line it up my eye for you. But if you put this in, that's where the two drill bits change, okay? So there's a big difference in those. Where the kits confuse everybody is that the reamer and the tap for both the 3-valve and the 2-valve are almost identical. I think they're identical. Matter of fact, I think they're exactly identical. Yes. Yep. And so that confuses people. So hopefully, if you have to, you can kind of rewind, fast forward go through what, find the parts of the video that you need to help you out. Now, because we're already discussing this, I'm going to bring up this little beauty right here. And Autolite makes this. I do not have a part number for the kit. I don't really want you to use this, but if you're stuck on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere and you just need to get your vehicle back home, there's two things you can do. Officially, I'm not supposed to say this, but I can tell you with the hundreds of people that have driven vehicles down to me from 2-3 hours away, as long as you disconnect the fuel injector electrical connector and the coil electrical connector, and the coil electrical connector is this one right here, right? So there'll be a little plug, you push the little button on the bottom and it pops off. And then right next to that on the same cylinder, if you look, there'll be another, usually it's an off-white or a gray. There'll be a flat wide connector that you pop off of the injector. Once you cancel the injector and the electrical go into that cylinder, you can drive that vehicle for a certain amount of time with the spark plug out of it, and it won't damage the engine. At least I have not seen one. But if you have to stick something in there, this is probably the next best thing, but only for temporary. People, listen carefully, only temporary. And when and if you have to install one of these, this is a kamikaze thread. It's basically a pipe thread, so it's tapered. As you screw this in, and this is, it's interesting how they do this, because this is a 2-valve fix, but they use the spark plug from a 3-valve engine that's inside of this holder right here. So when you buy this kit to fix your 2-valve from one of the smaller manufacturers, you're going to basically get this spark plug and then the outside of this as a kit, and you're going to screw it in. Well, when you go to put this in, you're going to tighten it down, but you're not going to crank it, because I've been getting a lot of people call me and tell me that they've broken these threads off in the cylinder head because they over tightened it and they need to know how to get them back out. That's nothing I can explain to you over the phone. If you break these threads off inside the cylinder head, you're on your own, because easy outs, it's about the only choice you have, and or pull the cylinder head. You can try drilling it out. There's a couple of methods professionals can use, but the main thing is when you go to put this in, don't tighten it down so tight that it breaks the threads off. Once these are in the engine, get to your back home or wherever you're going. If it doesn't blow back out before you get there, make sure you find a mechanic like myself that has the Calvan kit. Get this thing pulled out, because it will back out, and put a Calvan, tap it, get a Calvan insert put in there, and then it's permanent. You're never going to have to deal with that one again. So I don't know if we discussed how you can tell the difference between the 2-valve and the 3-valve engine. So why don't we go over that, and let me get my act together. So pause it for a second. All right, so quick identification. Do you have a 2-valve or a 3-valve? Well, that's a little bit difficult to explain, but I'll give you some of the quick pointers real quick. The best way for you to tell if you have a 2-valve or a 3-valve is pull one of your coils out. If you don't have the one that blew out, find a cylinder that's good and just remove the single bolt, disconnect that and pull this out. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to do that is when this is sitting inside the cylinder head underneath the fuel injection rail, the coil, and it's bolted down, it's going to look straight down. But when it's actually sitting in there, the 2-valve has an angle. Okay, you see that? All 2-valve engines have an angled boot. If this, and I wish I had a 3-valve coil with me, and I don't, so I apologize. But if this was a 3-valve, this would be straight down. Okay, it would come straight down. There would be no angle to it whatsoever. So that's one of the ways you can tell if you have a 2-valve. Now, the 3-valves, not only can you tell by having a straight boot, but the 3-valve is unique in the fact that on the front of the valve covers on both sides, there's a kind of a large notch on the front of the valve covers. which is where your timing chain rolls. There's a cam sprocket underneath that. Right behind that, sticking up, is an electrical connector on the 3-valve. And those are for the VVT sprockets, which is, like I said before, is variable valve timing, okay? One of the other shortcuts that I've noticed that may help you, do not hold me to this, but for the best of my knowledge, all of the 2-valve engines have had plastic valve covers. So if you have a plastic valve cover, it's a pretty good chance you have a 2-valve. As far as I know, every 3-valve engine that I've tore down have all had aluminum valve covers on them. So that's kind of another way you can tell. But the bottom line for this video to help you out is that the 3-valve and the 2-valve kits do not interchange in any way, shape, or form other than the install tools are the same between the drills and the taps. That's really it. The 3-valve requires an install tool where the 2-valve does not. And then we've gone over the different spark plugs that they have, and that's pretty much all I can do to kind of help you out on this right now. Hopefully I didn't confuse everybody, but I'm really spending an awful lot of time on the phone helping people that have put the wrong kits in the wrong engine, and if that happens, calling me is not going to help you. Unfortunately, once the damage is done and the wrong kit's installed, somebody has to be there to identify what you can do to fix the situation. And over the phone, I have no idea what you've got, what's been done, how bad it's been done, if anything's cross-threaded. There's too many variables. So look at the description underneath my video, and there's other videos that are under my name, Ron Williams, and lots of them for the Tritons, all kinds of oil leaks and coolant leaks and misfire videos that I'm trying to do. And then make sure you subscribe, because if you subscribe, every time I shoot a new video like this, it'll give you a notification that I've got another one up. So it's a good idea, especially the Ford Triton people, because that's what most of my videos are on, to go ahead and subscribe to me. So hopefully I've explained the difference between the 2-valve and the 3-valve clearly enough, and I wish you guys luck. Oh, real quick. So I'm going to make this the end of the video, but the 3-valve VVT engine, the one with the 16 millimeter plugs, okay, this engine was never installed in a van or a heavy duty truck or a motorhome. Okay, so just because you have an F-150 that's a 2007 or 2008, if it's got a 4.6 liter in it, it's a 2-valve engine. The other thing I wanted to update you on is I have a customer, Rich, he's a good friend of mine. He was looking at buying a brand new 2018, 2019 motorhome with a 6.8 liter. And the actual brochure for the motorhome listed the engine as a 6.8 liter 3-valve engine, 3-valve Triton. They never made the 4.6 or the 6.8 in a VVT configuration. So if you have a V10, it's a 2-valve engine. And like I said, 2020 they redesigned it, and the gas engine is now a 7.3 liter. So the 5.4 3-valves are only in the light duty trucks, and they're only from 2004 on the 5.4s up until, I really don't know what the cutoff date is for it. So I know 2010 is the second generation 3-valve. So hopefully that'll give you guys a little bit of an idea of what you may have. Because like I said, the vans and the motorhomes never received a VVT motor, so they're not 5.4 3-valves. All right, so with that being said, we'll end the video, and I'll see you on the next one. And good luck fixing your blown spark plugs.